Hi, everybody. I'd like to welcome you today to our ninth Lunch and Learn. This one is not without its own technical issues, as we have two of our attendings having been able to log into this screen, and everybody else is in the hide mode the way we had originally planned it. But Shannon and Eric, God bless you, you've made it through here. I'd like to welcome everybody right here and in the other space over there. My name is Lynn Aronoff. I'm the Executive Director of Parent Advocates for Choice in Education, PACE. This is our ninth lunch and Learn, as I said, where we like to highlight interesting things going on in education, even in lieu of being in Michigan, where we don't have a ton of choices, unlike some other places like Florida or Arizona. But with what we have a lot of creativity going on, a lot of entrepreneurship. And, when I first heard that there was this amazing, strong woman who started a boat school in the UP or in the Northern Michigan, I thought, that's someone I want to know. I stalked you, Nikki, until you answered me, but you answered right away. Thank you so much for joining us, Nikki Story. And Lucas Palis, I will let Amy do more of an introduction, but we are thrilled to have both of you and to highlight the different ways that students in your programs are able to learn. It's something that I'm in love with right now. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm very into experiential learning. That's learning where you're doing, not just sitting in a classroom. You're actually doing the things and getting prepared to have the job at the end of it, the career. So with that, I will introduce you to Amy Dunlap, our ever esteemed outreach director at PACE. Amy, take it away.
Thanks, Lynn, and welcome everybody. So before we get started, I know many of you will have questions. So as we go through this today, please go ahead and throw your questions in the chat pod for our panelists, and we'll answer those as they come in. And also, I know there's going to be questions about the wonderful raffle that's happening, and I will give you more details about that at the end of our time together today. So we are going to just jump right in today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce us to Nikki. Nikki Story is the president of the Great Lakes Boat Building School, GLBBS for short, the only accredited marine trade institution in the Midwest region. A native to Michigan's eastern Upper Peninsula, where the school is located, Nikki grew up in a family of skilled tradespeople, giving her a strong understanding of the importance of a trade-focused careers. With a degree in business management and a minor in human resources, Nikki also has many years of extensive human resources experience, helping employers attract and onboard new staff. So welcome, Nikki. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy.
So I have to just start right off with tell us a little bit about this boat building school. What is that? What does that look like? What do you have going on up there in the UP? That sounds so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, thank you all so much and giving me this opportunity to kind of talk about our school. And we are located in God's country. We are not all the way to Canada, but we do have running water. I can tell you that. So it's always a question I get. Yeah, we're running water in the UP. So it's a great place for us to have a school. And what we actually offer here is a really cool opportunity for students to trade school. We offer two programs. We have our comprehensive career boat building program, which is focused on building boats. And then we also have our marine service technology program, which focuses on the mechanics of boats and the things that make boats run. Both of those programs are 12 months long. It runs September through August. And students come here like it's a work day. They clock in, they keep track of inventory. Our goal here is to really prepare students to be successful in their careers in the marine industry.
So very cool. So I have to ask, what prompted this? You've kind of I don't know, you had a dream maybe, I don't know, and came up with this amazing idea, and then you turned it into an opportunity for students. So tell us kind of how did this kind of unveil itself and become what it is now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I cannot take credit. Full credit of the dream of Great Lakes Boat Building School has to go to the community of the Lachino Islands. It's a very philanthropic community full of volunteerism. And essentially, just to give you a little bit of background about the Lachino Islands, it's two communities, Cedarville and Hessel in the Upper Peninsula. That's background. The first Chris Craft dealership was located in Hessel, Michigan. And of course, those were wood boats. So this is like a wood boat mecca in the Upper Peninsula. and it's a beautiful place to enjoy the water. And so what happens though, similar to many Michigan communities, the summertime, there's an influx of people, population quadruples in size here. And what the local community residents were seeing was that there'd be a drop off in the local economy. So essentially they got together and thought, what would work well that would fit into, the environment here, and what the community has to offer. And a wood boat building school is what they came up with. And that was 18 years ago. And now we've been so fortunate. We've had 100% placement of our programs and had some really great success with our bringing on a marine service technology program in the last 3 years. We have some major manufacturers such as Mercury Marine, Ilmore Racing, and different manufacturers who are supporting the school as well. So it's a really cool place to be.
Awesome. So I heard you touch on that 100% placement of students. That's super impressive. What careers are you seeing your students go into once they finish your program?
Yeah, so I always say people go anywhere there's water. First of all, we have students come in from all across the country. Majority of the students are Michigan students or Great Lakes students, but we have students from Arizona, Alaska. And so students, when they're done here, can go anywhere that there's water. So of course, there's many Great Lakes, right? So many students end up in jobs in the Great Lakes, but the type of jobs that they end up as for our wood boat building program, a lot of our students end up either working for boat builders or also in restoration as well. That's also a very, very prominent job here in the Great Lakes in particular. And then on a marine service technology side, a lot of students end up working for dealers or marinas or manufacturers, working on those engines, working on as technicians, working on the electronical components that go into boats. And by the way, boats are very tech savvy now, right? So they have a huge need. It's actually a dire need for people with these technical skills to come work on the boats.
That's awesome. So in thinking about all these years that you guys have been providing this program for students, what's been maybe the highlight of this adventure so far?
Yeah, what I would say, it's graduation day every single year. When the students graduate, we're a nonprofit school. We do everything we can to help these students get out, come here as affordably as possible and help them get out there and get jobs as soon as possible. When students come to me the last couple of months, I spend time with them trying to figure out where they're going to work and things like that. And on graduation day, when they're there with their families and they're so excited to go start their new job somewhere in a career that they love and that there's so much opportunity, it is literally the best day ever. It's my favorite, absolute favorite.
That's awesome. I feel like anybody in the education industry will say that because I always say that as well. Graduation day, hands down, is always my favorite day of the year. So I love that. So if people want more information about the school or maybe, being able to attend or learning more about the opportunity, where should they go to get some information?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a couple of things. First of all, we have on-site visit days. We always have an on-site visit day in November every year, March, and then June. So we have an on-site visit day coming up June 3rd. And I will actually put in the chat a link where people can go to register for that. We also have a virtual visit day, which is a great way to learn about the school without having to make the trip north. That's scheduled for April 20th at 6 p.m. So you have to register for both of those events, as well as, of course, you can follow us on our website, glbbs.edu, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, and also on YouTube as well.
Lynn, go ahead. I know you're chomping.
I raised my hand. I tried to be official. Well, Nikki, I have a million questions, but I'll bring it down to just a couple. Do you advertise to get enrollees? What does that look like? And what is the cost like when they're done with the program?
Yeah, I'm really thrilled that you're bringing that up, actually, because that gives me a chance to kind of talk about our scholarship and different things here too. So we do advertise primarily, of course, on social media, but we also go to a lot of CTE programs and present. Well, it may not necessarily be a marine specific program. Students that are in the construction trades, honestly, any programs that students like doing something with their hands, they would fit in well with our school. So construction trades, automotive classes, welding classes, just anything automotive, right? All those different areas are the types of students that are successful. The other thing I would add, and I know this is primarily reaching probably high school students' parents, but we also, what's really interesting is the demographics of our students that attend our school. About 30% of our students are right out of high school, your traditional student. About 30% are veterans. And then another 30% are your non-traditional traditional students that have gone to college and they're still kind of trying to find their way, right? Like college isn't for them and they've decided, you know what, this isn't what I want to do. Or, you know, we have those people that are career changers that are out there, they're going, you know what, I'm sitting at a desk 8 to 5, I'm sick of it, I want to do something different. So they leave their careers and they come to us. And then Linda, also answer your question as it relates to tuition. It's $25,000 for the entire year. And then what we have really cool here, again, going back to the philanthropic attitude of the school and our board of directors, is we have some really awesome sponsorships set up by employers where the employer pays $15,000 to go towards a student's tuition. And then they have a 1-year work commitment with really great job offers on the back end. So students, before they even start here, can have a job offer just by applying. So, and then we also have an awesome scholarship program, like really out of this world. I can tell you that every student that applies receives something. And last year, I think 87% of our students received some kind of aid in order to come to school here. So we work really hard to keep tuition as affordable as possible.
You know, the segment that I'm so interested in, I mean, everything that you're talking about, but you know, that one sector of folks, the kids who, or people who went to the 4-year college. And I'm you know, in the bank the other day, I met a guy I've known for a while who works there, who went to a 4-year college, and he and his cousins are all going back to a trade situation because they have mid-level management jobs in banks and stuff like that, but it's not setting the world on fire. And their parents had, you know, prioritized the going to 4-year college, and now they're 25 years old, and one is going to aviation school, and you know, they're going back to this, which is, I think, so important, a resurgence in these kind of jobs. I mean, Lord knows the job market is, you know, needs them needs them desperately. It's definitely the way to get work, but also to have a fulfilling career, which I think is something that people gloss over, and it's really the most important thing. And getting the training without a massive debt, man,
Absolutely.
it's
Work
incredible.
very hard to keep it so that they're not too, right? Another piece is too, and sometimes I know it's scary. You know, I had parents that a 4-year college was what they wanted me to do, right? So it's usually the parents that can be the holdback, right? Because in their mind, that's what we've been taught is for university. That's, you know, what we need to do. That's where we need to send our kids. So it's not usually the parents that are that might hold the student back. I always tell parents, listen, it's 1 year of their life. A lot of them are right out of high school and not ready to go to university either, by the way. Our community is safe. We take care of them. We're personal. Like if they don't show up to class, guess what? We're pounding on their door going, what's going on? You know, we just have a different approach here. And I think we're really good at what we do too, right?
Well, how do your students find out about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, going back to the CTE presentations.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But social media, I mean, they follow us on social media, YouTube. You know, that's what the students are typically into. So we present to a lot of high school programs.
Gotcha. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was thinking in terms of like paid advertising and that kind of thing that is very cool that you don't need to do.
Yeah. And in truth, we are getting a ton of industry recognition. The industry loves what we're doing. They love our 100% placement. They love our students that come out of here. I know we went and met with one of our employers who's hired 4 of our students, and he said, I want 4 more just like them. There's whatever you're doing with those students is right. So it's like,
well, yeah, I mean, the panel, you know, there's so many things that it prepares the students for. We had a panel at Associated Builders and Contractors last year, and of course, obviously the workforce issue is huge. But you know, these employers were saying nobody knows that they're supposed to come in and look me in the eye and shake my hand. Yeah. And you come out of learning something, but you don't necessarily know how to navigate within the world of that thing. And schools like yours prepare.
Yeah, and we call it a professionalism score, but they either pass or they fail here. And so we actually have really high standards too. And we set them up with that expectation coming into, which parents typically like too, by the way, that we kind of hold them to a high bar and high standard. But yeah, they pass or they fail. And not everybody makes it through our program. And that's with intent, right? They represent us when they leave.
What is your capacity?
Right now we're at 24. We are actually in the process. We received an EDA grant to expand facilities. So we're going to go 50 to And so I mentioned we have our career boat building program, and then we have a marine service technology program, but we're going to be adding a third program, the first school in the country to offer this, a specific marine electronics program. It's in high demand, and of course electronics are kind of taking over the world, right? So and the technology they need it to be kept up with. So that's something we'll be offering with our new facility expansion.
Maybe for our next lunch and learn, we could get one of them to come on here and tell us how to do the right thing with the audience view and not view.
Oh, they probably could too.
My son, who's 10, probably could too, but and Amy's son as well. Thank you, Nikki, very much. This is
You're
just
welcome.
absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Nikki, I just want to give you a minute. Any sort of final, thoughts or anything else you want to kind of share with us as we're wrapping up sort of your portion?
I always end with everybody knows somebody. It may not be your child, but it might be a coworker's child, or it might be somebody that has just been kind of floundering in life, but is very good with their hands, and they just need some direction. Put them in contact with us. And I would also say this: never let tuition be the barrier. Again, we're a nonprofit. Yes, we have to charge tuition, but don't have anybody go, oh my gosh, that's scary. Please put them in contact to us. I can't promise scholarship, but I can promise you I will do everything in my power to help anybody that has an interest in a motivation to come to school here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nikki. And again, for our participants, if you have any questions, throw them into the chat pod and we will come back around to those as well. So again, Nikki, go ahead.
One more thing. I'm going to put in the chat the link to register for any of those visit days too. Okay. So that'll be out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. So
just a quick FYI, quick. One thing that we're in the process of building right now is putting together all of these resources for families to get to. So being able to have one spot to put a school like yours, Nikki, and also have MIPS and maybe even have as much of detail as far as like the deadlines and the things like that. That's what we're looking to build so that we can be a home for all of the different information. And we are really looking forward to highlighting your school.
Awesome. That'd be great. Happy to participate. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So our next panelist is Lucas Pellis. So Lucas is our Director of Student Operations and Logistics at Michigan International Prep School. Lucas is responsible for streamlining the enrollment process for students and families. He is an enthusiastic visionary with a persistent ambition to grow and innovate the school programs in order to better serve students. His driven mission is to level the playing field for students and to eliminate whatever barriers stand between them and success. So welcome, Lucas. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to just start off with, tell us a little bit about Michigan International Prep School.
So we are a full cyber school here in the state of Michigan, and taking students from kindergarten up to 12th grade, actually up to age 22, with students all over the state. Right now we're about 1,300 kiddos, and we like to tell them once a MIPster, always a MIPster, meaning you graduate and if you need something 5 years down the road, we're going to be here to get you to that next path that you have. We support students across the board in that with special education, 504, or any of those type of accommodations students need. And then we have learning labs at some spots around the state, down in Detroit, Howell, Davison, and Saginaw, where students can come in if they need a safe place to learn, if they just want to go and meet directly with their mentors there. And then we also have mentors. We try to keep our mentors at 45 students per mentor so that they can really get a good relationship. When I do parent presentations, I say, and it's true, that their mentor is their best friend here at MIPS. They have an issue, they go first to their mentor. The mentor helps get barriers out of the way and teaches them along the way how they can do this for themselves, so that when they are older, they know how to approach this person or go ask for help here and how to do that. It's really they have a checklist of life skills that we're having them help the students learn. So when they leave us, like Lynn said about shaking the hand and looking somebody in the eye, they know how to do all these things on their own. They don't just leave us and flounder.
Awesome. So Lucas, you've taken your mission of removing barriers for students to extremely high levels here at the school. So while thinking outside the box, help build partnerships and programs to allow students to truly have an individual pathway, ultimately to their dreams, really, I think, for a lot of these kids. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the pathways and opportunities that you've been able to create?
Yeah, I'd love to. And really, I'd like to just tell you kind of the catalyst that drives me. I had a student when I was back in a brick and mortar. He was super polite, but kind of fell in with the wrong crowd. And I saw him at a fast food place a couple years after he should have graduated. And he took my money. And I'm talking to him, and he said, "Well, I never graduated. That school made me leave because I didn't get my diploma on time, and I've got a kiddo on the way, and I'm just trying to figure out life." And that really stuck with me because he was a good kid. He got in trouble, but he's still a good kid, and the school system failed him. And so what I've tried to do is really that school of one. We have 1,300 kids, and they may all have a different pathway, a different pace where they're at. And so some of the things, one of them is our adult learning, so that we can take kiddos up to age 22, because schools don't always want to have a 19, 20-year-old sitting in with their 17, 18-year-olds in classes. And so we give them a home. We want to be a home for any kid that needs us. Students with we have social workers on staff in a partnership with Wellspring Lutheran to give additional intensive social work for students who suffer with anxiety, depression, some of those, a lot of the social emotional concerns that kiddos have. Our first year, we learned that our kids couldn't go to the military unless we were accredited by the NCA, and so we got our accreditation right away. Now they're called Cognia, and so our kiddos can go, and we have students go into the military every year. One of my favorites is about 2 years ago, I had students say, "Hey, I want to be a realtor. Can you help me be a realtor?" And I said, "I don't know, let's find out." And so I went and tracked down the information of how they can become a realtor. They can't actually take their real estate license in Michigan until they're 18, but I get them all the training that they need, practice tests and everything else, so that they can leave us. And we have licensed realtors now because they're over 18, still students, which is totally exciting because that's what they wanted to do. I created an enhanced dual enrollment program. I call it enhanced because there's a law that says you can have 10 dual enrollment classes, unless your board votes to allow you to do more. And our board is very progressive, and they voted to allow me to create this cool program. This one, we first started with Cleary University, whereas they started with, as a freshman, they would be able to get their associates by their senior year. Now, I used to run an early middle college program, but that goes into a 13th year. Not all kids want to do that. And I'm working on creating one with another school right now for early middle college, because some kids need that. But this enhanced dual enrollment was so they could start as a freshman and get all the way through. And we have 10 more students that are in that pathway finishing up, some of them finishing up this June with their associate's degree from that program in business. That's what they wanted to do. We have a strong NCAA presence. About 130 students are planning to play college sports and are in either some of the elite programs that we support, or just individual type things, motocross, gymnastics, figure skating, things that take up a lot of their time. Then in the computing world, we work with MICE, which is the Michigan Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, to offer their classes that offer credentials for our students. So in cybersecurity, building computers and all those things, so they can leave us with actual credentials that they can then take to a job that works in the real world. They don't always have to go to college. I tell the students that go on that track, I have a brother-in-law who makes 3 to 4 times what I make and never graduated from college. He's self-taught because he's in the computing world, and he can go wherever he wants to for a job because of those skills that we're trying to get them now. Really, I call it the Diploma Plus. Whatever they need to get to the next level, we're going to get them to their diploma. It's really we have people that love them so much that we're going to help love them to their diploma. But what are they going to do after? And that's that Diploma Plus. I don't want to just think about the high school diploma. Too many people think of that as, oh, this is the end. That's just the door to get to the next level of the rest of your life.
Awesome. Thanks, Lucas. So I know too that Michigan International Prep School has a partnership with USA Hockey as well as TPH Hockey. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because I think that's just a really neat partnership and something that's happening at the school.
Yeah, so many people may not realize that the National Hockey League has their junior national team based out of Plymouth, Michigan. And they have a nice arena there, and they sponsor it. And we service 42 of the 45 students that are in that program this year. We've done this for the last 3-4 years now. And so I work very closely with them. All of these students go on to Division I full-ride scholarships. They go to the top elite schools in the country. And one of the most gratifying things for me is 2 of my students, 2 kiddos were going to Harvard this year. And the mom assures me up and down that MIPS is what prepared them for Harvard education, which I always love to hear, right? Because you always wonder. And they're doing great. I just talked to their coach actually last week, and one of the kids scored in the game against one of their rivals. And so that's the exciting part. So those kids are training 6 to 8 hours a day on the ice, in the weight room, working with dietitians and all of their coaches. They can't sit in a school for the traditional 7:30 to 2:30 route and fulfill their dream. And so we're able to provide them time during the day. They have a study time, and then they work in the evening, they work on the weekends, and they just get it done. When they flew internationally for one of their trips, kids can work on their schoolwork while they're going afar. TPH is Total Package Hockey. They have a couple of sites here in Michigan, a lot around the country. And we work closely with them for the same type of thing. It's still in kind of getting to that junior level. The USA team is the elite school here in Michigan for that level. And it's just fun to work with those kiddos because they know what they want to do. And so they're really motivated to try and reach that next level.
Lynn, you've got something to add, I think.
Well, first of all, I have a hockey playing child. So is there any chance we can meet any of these people? That's number one. Number two, the same thing I was asking Nikki, really your capacity, how you're pulling your students, and costs.
So we're funded by the state of Michigan, which is a double-edged sword, because as you've heard, the state of Michigan would love to cut our funding because they think that our virtual education kids aren't the same as other kids. We have different costs. We don't have the same costs, that's true. We have different costs, and there's different structures that we have to follow. And so we pay for everything. So like all this dual enrollment, I'm paying a lot of money for colleges. I have 46 students taking other dual enrollment classes around the state. We don't make them exhaust the curriculum in its entirety. We allow them to take classes all within the law. I'm a very black and white thinker according to the law. I want to make sure I'm always following it. But there's ways that you can use the law and support kids at the same time. And so we spend a lot of money helping kids. Superintendent always told me if we have to spend everything we get from the state to educate that one child differently than everybody else, let's do it. And that's what we try to do. In order to get into the USA, unfortunately, it's by invitation only. So to the USA junior team, you got to just be awesome wherever you're playing, and they invite a whole bunch of kids down for tryouts, and then they select 25 of those kids, I think, usually each year.
Oh no, Lucas, I don't want him playing on that level. Don't get me wrong. I just thought he'd want to meet one of the players.
Oh yeah, we had, so about a month ago, well, I guess it's March now, about 3 months ago, we had a MIPS night where we all, a bunch of us went down to the USA Hockey Arena and watched our kids. And I didn't even think that the kids noticed that we were there until they told our mentor that's there. Just like, oh, we saw the MIPS gear, like our people were here watching us. And so they really do feel part of our school, even though we're separated from time and space, and they are on just a different track of our students, but that's their pathway. And we're supporting them on their pathway.
Well, I think just to brag for, hold on, Lynn, just to brag for a minute. I was at that MIPS night. And I thought something that was really, really cool that I noticed. I'm just going to brag on Lucas for a minute. Lucas knew those kids, okay, they're in, full gear. I don't know who they are. Like, they're in full gear. I don't know any kid when they're in full hockey gear. Lucas knew every single one of those kids, who they were, what they were playing, was screaming for them by first name. And that was like one of those moments that is just like, you've made a connection with your kids when you can sit there and do that. And for me, that was, I mean, the game was awesome, right? Like you can't say that a hockey game's not cool, but listening to Lucas that entire game was probably my highlight of the entire evening. So I just think it's really cool. So when Lucas talks about truly making relationships here and building those personal connections, like that's truly happening. So go ahead, Lynn.
Well, construction has started in the suite next to me as if more stuff couldn't kind of go awry today. So I apologize for the noise. But what I'm wondering about is the caps, the amount of students you can take, and where you're drawing them from, how they're finding out about you, or how are they finding out about you?
So I have a great marketing team, and they use a lot of social media because that's where students still are. And so all those things that I don't necessarily use, but Facebook, Instagram, probably Twitter. I think they're on Twitter because I liked one of their feeds the other day. I try to keep up. Then we have usually during our heavy enrollment season, which will begin accepting students for next fall, starting in May. And we start to put up a couple of billboards around. So, high traffic areas, 75 and places like that. A lot of it's word of mouth. So I always ask where these kids are learning about us, and so many of them are being referred by a friend or somebody that they knew that came here and found a home. That's where we find the lion's share of our students is now we're just growing. We're trying to find our sweet spot of how many kids can we fully support, because by law I can take, I think, up to 2,500 kids. I don't know if we're at the capacity to be able to support that. So we don't want to just grow without being able to keep everything that we're doing available for every single student. If we lose that school of one, then we've lost our vision. And too many kids could hurt us in that vision. We don't know where that is, that limit. Right now, we haven't hit any limits. There are times when I have to limit like elementary levels just because of the number I have, only a staff member for each level. I can't give them 100 sixth grade or fifth graders. There's certain things I can and can't do. So I try to play that game of allowing kids in as often as I can during our enrollment season we want to make sure that we're doing what's best by the kids and not just grow for the sake of growing. And really we pull them from, I think we have kids in almost every county at this point that are coming to us. We brought in a bunch this winter during our enrollment season, and a lot of them were coming in because they were having issues with bullying or safety or any of those types of concerns. And they've been thinking about it, and they finally just decided, no, we need to, for our child's mental health or for our child's safety, we need to make the change. So that's where we're pulling a lot of them from, kiddos that have some needs or that are, like I said, with the elite playing of sports, that's getting around now, that we can help them get through all of their goals and do their education at the same time. They don't get to shirk their education. They have to actually fulfill all of the requirements. They don't get snow days. They don't get to skip standards. They have to do it all. But they do it because we enable it to happen for them.
Awesome. Lucas, can you touch on a little bit? MIPS is very innovative compared to kind of the stereotypical idea that we have of virtual schooling. So can you kind of talk a little bit about what sets the school apart from maybe some of its counterparts?
From counterparts in the virtual world?
Yes.
So every virtual school is required to have mentors, but there's no set number of how many mentees per mentor. And so obviously if you have 100 kids or 200 kids that you're mentoring, quote unquote, you're not going to be able to have the relationship, to know them, to have the first name basis with these kids. And so we cap it at 45 because that's what we've toyed with a few different spots, and that has been really a good sweet spot. We could go up a little bit potentially, but we want our mentors and we train them a lot so that they can reach out to the kiddos. So mentors really does, how we do mentoring, I think, is very different from some of the other virtual schools out there. Trying to create different pathways for them. I know there are some virtual schools that have some pretty cool things out there. That's something, ours are just unique. Ours are different. That's the fun part of my job, is when I get to create new opportunities based upon what kids tell me that they want to do. One of the struggles with that obviously is the CTE world, where I can't be a CTE program by the state won't allow cyber schools to be. So I have to work with like career centers and things, but not everybody has spots for us. And so that's a pain point for me, is finding out how I can, because there's kids that want to go into these different things. I forgot one of our programs, Greater Michigan Construction Academy. I got 2 of my kiddos there, just saw them last week. One's in welding, one's in going to be construction. Both love it. Both are going to be working with employers to continue on. They're going to have their level 2 apprenticeships done by the time they graduate from us this year. And they're meeting with their employers soon their employers will then help pay for their continuing education with that construction company. So they can have full-time jobs right after high school. Really excited kids. That's the type of thing that I want to do, is to get them into those type of programs more. That's been the biggest struggle. I sat on a state committee trying to figure out how to get CTE into the cyber world. And it was ultimately decided that it was not feasible, unfortunately, for us cybers that were on that committee. And having our learning labs, some others have learning labs, so we have some of the learning labs around. They're not super well attended. 5% of our students probably attend the learning lab at any point throughout the year, but we have them there if for those students who need them. And some students come every day because that's what they need. They need that structure. And then we have world-class, our tech team is just fantastic to reach out and help our students. They need obviously the devices that's required by law. So we provide quality devices and quality internet to our students so that even up there in the UP, our students can still log in and get their work done wherever they live.
I think a really interesting thing, just to bring both of you together, Lucas and Nikki, is the connection with the students. Nikki, you're welcoming parents and telling it's a safe environment here and we'll take care of your kids. And Lucas, building the connection virtually, making sure that these kids across the board, whichever choice they choose, they feel connected to the institution that they are attending. Is so, I mean, man, I could have used that. That's a really important thing. And both of you are so creative in how you're getting to it. Lucas from this big structure, Nikki from a littler structure, virtual versus in person, but the needs that you're meeting are exactly the same in different ways. I commend both of you. It's incredibly interesting to me to hear about the creativity in both of your situations. And we need this across the board. Education needs to be rethought. And maybe the 4-year universities aren't going to be in major abundance anymore. Maybe that's going to be they're not having as much enrollment and they will go out of business. So what are the answers? The answers are the things that you folks are doing. And your students are incredibly lucky to have you. I feel really fortunate to learn about it. And hockey. Just can I mention hockey? And my kid loves a boat too, Nikki. Don't worry about that. We could go either way here. Good with his hands, loves a boat, plays hockey. We could
listen, our students started a hockey team this year, so you know what?
Really?
Yeah, they came to me and said, "Can we start a hockey team?" I said, "Absolutely."
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. Well, that's another issue. Like it's not typical high school or K-12 or it's not these typical things, but what about the extracurricular? I know MIPS in large part exists because of kids who are so involved, not in large part, but a niche that you fill is that kids are so busy with pursuing these professional sports or whatever it is. And I mean, you both are, I'm losing my train of thought. You're both dealing with the same side of the coin in different approaches.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my point was exactly, so take it from there.
All right, I'll take back over, Lynn. Let you think. But Lucas, back for a second. If more people want to learn about Michigan International Prep School, where should they go to do that?
Our website is fantastic. www.miprepschool.org. I just put it there in the chat. Once we open for enrollment in May, there'll be a link up there at the top that you can click on. I've made it as streamlined as possible for families to be able to get the information. And there's tons of information. We keep a lot of information there. Our counselors have a great counseling page so we can help kids, because a lot of our kids do go to college. And so we help them in both. Really, it's wherever direction you want to take, that's what we're going to help them with. So coming to that, we'll do a couple of live sessions this summer where we'll advertise so that parents would do a presentation. And then we ask, parents can ask questions after.
Awesome. Well, Lucas, any final thoughts for us as we wrap up today?
If you know any politicians or people that can help, please just ask them to consider what the message you're sending to my kiddos is when they talk about cutting their funding. It's not just about the dollars, and in a time when we have a huge budget surplus, why are we having this discussion? When all of these are tax-paying families around the state that are putting the money into there, and they've chosen to go a different route for their child. If they want to really talk about changing it, let's all come to the table and talk about what do they want to change, but don't just do the easy answer for most people is just, oh, let's just cut it because they don't need it. Let's have the conversations to see. So if you can get us those conversations, great. I'd love to sit down and talk with people.
Well, Lucas, that's a really important point, and that is another thing that we are in the business of at Pace, and that is bringing together the families and showing them how to advocate for their kids, because the combined voices are so much better than one voice alone. It really makes a huge difference. And who knows the lawmakers? Well, me and Amy know the lawmakers, but you know what? We need the families telling the stories to the lawmakers about what these schools mean to their families and why it's so critical that they exist. And that cutting the funding, it's not going to go away quietly. These are the folks that are going to show up and scream about it because it's their kids and they want it. And so we want to be the hub for that as well, so that, you know, it's embarrassing to make these kinds of cuts. Just saying that a virtual school doesn't have brick and mortar is not a reason to cut funding. It's cutting funding so that you as a parent don't have the choice of where to send your kid. And that's, as parents, you know, what we know is our lifeblood is protecting our kids and making sure they have opportunity. So if my child wants to learn how to build boats, I'm going to make it my business to get him to Nikki's school. And I'm going to make sure that my politicians, my legislators know how important that option is to me. And so it's getting these parents out of their comfort zone a little bit, but it's easy to get out of your comfort zone when it concerns your child. But yeah, Nikki should absolutely have her school. MIPS should absolutely be in existence, and it should be fine with the state. They shouldn't be coming after anybody, and whatever funding you can get from the state, you should be able to get. Bottom line. Back to you, Amy.
I was like, I feel like that's just like, it's a wrap, folks. No, yeah. So again, Nikki, Lucas, thank you for being here. I think it's ever so important for families to hear what options are out there and to hear what great things schools are doing. So definitely inspiring to listen to both of you. With that said, for our listeners, if you're still wondering, hey, how do I get entered into that $200 gift card drawing, you need to head on over to mipace.org/membership and sign up. It's free to become a member to be able to receive our updates, and you'll be entered into that raffle, and Lynn will announce that in the coming days. So with that said, again, Nikki and Lucas, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you guys joining us and taking time out of your day. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their Monday, and they're staying safe out there in the crazy Michigan winter that's still here. And we'll see everybody next time.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
ladies,
you
very
so
much.
much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.